الدين. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري واحلل عقدة من لساني يفقه قولي. أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. أسعد الله أيامنا وأيامكم. Pilgrimage was the final major ritual of Islam that the Blessed Prophet gave. Although he had done pilgrimages prior to his final one, but in the final one, he gave the Islamic ordinances. Now, throughout pilgrimage, he was explaining to them how to turn to God at every different stop within the pilgrimage. And then when it came to the day of Eid, he institutionalized the sacrifice to celebrate the name of Allah. Why? Because previously the pagans used to celebrate the names of their own deities through sacrifice. So that was changed. And then he instructed them to do the takbirat. What he was saying here was that the whole entirety of his mission was to do with acquainting people with one authority, and that is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He is beyond any imagination. He is greater than all the deities and gods that the pagans had. But more than that, he was saying his will should prevail over and above your own will. Allahu Akbar Kabira. Allah is grand, greater. Now here it was to do with shaping their minds. La ilaha illallah. There is no God but Allah. Walillahi alhamd. All praise belong to Allah. Praise belong to Allah for guiding us. Guiding us to what? Not guiding us to anything, but to Himself, to Tawheed. Now what He did was He institutionalized inner connection with God through outer bodily forms. And of course, that's how we are. We are body and soul, or body and spirit, or body and mind. The body is regulated, the mind is directed towards God. He, in every aspect of this major obligation, brought in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala at the forefront of their minds. And if you read Surah Baqarah, where it talks about the pilgrimage and how people remember Allah, the Prophet wanted to efface everything from the community's minds aside from Allah, full reliance upon Allah, full proclamation of the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and none else. The Prophet didn't even institutionalize his own name within devotions. Merely said, send salawat on me and my progeny. And the Sahabi asked, he said, should I send salawat on you and ask for my needs? The Prophet said, don't ask for your needs, send salawat on me for the entirety of the time that you're sending salawat, and God will give you your needs. So the salawat that was sent upon the Prophet was, oh Allah, bless Muhammad and the family of Muhammad. That too was to do with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala's invoking Allah's blessing upon the Prophet. Islam wished to cut out every single trace of everyone else from devotion so that the human minds can be focused to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is a very, very important point. I'm going to make one more point before I go to the major part of this discussion. That is that the Prophet was teaching them, your life is but a moment. And Allah has catered for that moment. Don't be so overly preoccupied within your souls. If He gives you sustenance, it will come to you. If He withholds it, nobody can bring it to you. If He gives your life, if He gives you lives, you will breathe. If He withholds life, the breaths will be restrained. You can't do anything about it. Rely on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Try your best to earn your livelihood, to better your situation. But in all of that striving, rely upon Allah, because the final decision and discretion is with God. Be content with God. He was removing us from the concerns of this life. So the first thing is concern from other than God. Second thing is concern from our own psychological preoccupations and fears. Removed. In other words, the Blessed Prophet was freeing the community, both ideologically, emotionally, and spiritually, from everything other than God. Be aligned with God. It's a moments of life, and you will die and you will go. Now, in this respect, he gave something quite profound. He said, look, call unto Allah at every breath. Even when you are picking up your staff, ask Allah's assistance. Now, that practice became so ingrained within the community that no matter what they would do, they would invoke Allah. And it became a part of their lifestyle. If somebody would die, they would say, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. As simple as that. They would grieve, they would cry, but at the end of the day, they would say, Inna lillahi wa inna ilayhi raji'un. Fine. If they received something, they would say, Alhamdulillah. These are very simple things. But imagine how they shifted the full paradigm and liberated the people. When they would eat something, they would say, Bismillah. And Allah laka shukr. At the end, they would say, Alhamdulillah, Allah laka shukr. When somebody would say to them in a quarrel, Ittaqillah, fear God, they would stand back even if they were right. Because the name of my Lord has been invoked. I cannot speak henceforth, even if I am on the right, but the name of my Lord has been mentioned. This is the level at which the reverence of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala was brought within their souls. Now, when they used to face the enemies in battle, they would say, La quwwata illa billah. There is no strength save with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And God says in the Quran, if you die, then the ridwan min Allah and the reward is far better for you. And indeed to Allah you will come. So they lost fear of death. They were liberated in their minds, in their emotions, spiritually. They saw life as a passage to God. This is how finely refined they became. Now comes the point. When I go to the court, I invoke Allah. Be with me. Help me through this difficult case. I am at fault. Bring clemency in the mind of the judge so that he deals with me gently. If I'm due a punishment, allow me to bear my punishment. I've made a wrong decision. I will suffer financially, but oh God, pick me up again. We invoke God, don't we? At every level of our need. Do we or do we not? This is what we are supposed to do. This is what a Muslim is supposed to do, the muwahid. We face an enemy. We invoke God. We face a difficult situation at home. We invoke God. I've been invoking God for the last 30 years in this place due to bankruptcy. But He has always come to aid. We always invoke God. Think about what I'm going to say next very, very carefully. Think about this. God is our aid at every breath, at every step, throughout the journey of this life. But then when we breathe our last, where does God go? Where does God go? Isn't this amazing? Then we ask the Prophet and his family to help us against God. Think about it. There's crisis in there. There are crises in our heads. Throughout the life of this world, we have enemies and God is our friend. But on the day of Qiyamah, God is the advocate against us and Muhammad and Ali Muhammad are our friends. The day in which you need Him the most, we invoke somebody else. The day of greatest need, that is the day in which Allah is not there in our hearts. We invoke the Prophet and his family to help us through against God or, of course, the difficulties that we'll encounter with God. Does that make sense to anybody? Surely the soul should say, Oh Lord, I do not mind the tribulations of this world. Be with me on the day of my severe need when there will be no friend for a friend, no son for a father, no father for child, no brother for brother. I need you on that day, the day of my greatest embarrassment. Even if you don't save me on this day, it's but an hour, the whole life of mine, of 100 years. But there, where I face embarrassment, chastisement, regret, how will I be able to cross the ordeal of that day without you by my side? But there is no God. This is not what the Prophet and his family taught. Imam Ali says, Oh Allah, since I have begun to know you, I've fallen in love with you. And in your love, if you will burn me, then I shall burn. And I will say to the inhabitants of hell, burn me. For the one who burns me herein is the one to whom I am devoted. See, our thinking about God is very wrong. God is the intimate one. God was not introduced in rukus and sujood. He was not only introduced at the psychological level that God can overpower any situation, God was introduced at a very personal and intimate level by the Prophet. The Prophet said, I have my lonely hours with God in which no proximate angel shares with us. Put aside all formality. Even Gabriel is not allowed to share that moment of the Prophet Muhammad with his God. That is the God relationship we need deep within us to say, oh Allah, if you are not with me on the day of Qiyamah, then what hope do I have? And oh Lord, how can it be that you will be there and I'll be afraid of you? Oh Lord, give me a heart, even though I don't have the strength to do this, but we should say this, oh Allah, give me a heart. I will jump into the fire of hell if that's what you want. Why should I beg around to say to people, talk to God? I'm talking with you directly. Of course, I want the intercession of your blessed Prophet and of the family of the blessed Prophet, not because they are kinder than you are, but the way the community has made it out is God is very vengeful, wrathful, and the Prophet is kinder. So Prophet will put in a nice word for us. This is the mindset. Just analyze it. Something has gone terribly wrong. God should be the closest. I will invoke the assistance of the blessed Prophet. Why? Because the blessed Prophet is filled with your light. For me, calling on to the blessed Prophet is like for me calling on to your name, not anybody other than you. That is how I see the blessed Prophet and his family. The radiance of your beauty. So here it is. Tender, loving relationship with the judge. But he has to sit there and dispense with justice. That is his rule because that was the pact that you made. So he will. But the judge doesn't hate you. You can plead to the judge from within there, for he listens to that beyond his role as a judge. That is how we need to be with God. You are my parent. You are my friend. You are my ally. You are my support. You are my companion. You are my protection. You are the cave to which I retreat. You are the one who picks me up when I fall, when I have fallen down. How can you abandon me on my day of need? Oh Lord, you are Lord. You are the judge. You dispense with justice. But I plead to you, not as a creature to his Lord, but as a lover to the beloved, a friend to another. That is the proximate relationship we need to have with God. You see, the very fact that we are perplexed by death shows that we are not finding God deep within us. Look at the example of the blessed Hussein. He radiates when he's being beheaded. He radiates. Which God has he found? That is the God that is available for one and all. I don't think Imam Hussein was in a position where he cared about paradise anymore, the sort of paradise that we yearn, or he had any fear in his soul left of hell at that point when he is radiating with the light of God. That is the light we need to have. Now, we need to have confidence in our God. We really, really do need to have confidence in our God. As we have confidence in our mothers, we need to have confidence in our God. And with that confidence, move forward in the journey of life so that every step, every breath can become meaningful and bring greater light to our souls. Can we pray Surah Fatiha for all the dear, beloved marhumin that we have lost over the year? May Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala be pleased with them and raise them in their ranks of proximity with His beloved self and with the beings of the Blessed Prophet and his family. Al-Fatiha. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والعصر إن الإنسان لفي خسر إلا الذين آمنوا وعملوا الصالحات وتواصوا بالحق وتواصوا بالصبر. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء والمرسلين وآله الطيبين الطاهرين أما بعد السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته. Just very briefly, you see, the way the Prophet understood reform was not through punishments and threats. He understood reform through change from within, a substantive change. By punishing the wrongdoers, what we are doing is we are dealing with the symptoms. We are not working at really what needs to be changed. So I often say to people who say, we should fight against this nation for oppressing the Muslims. And I would always say, yes, I have advocated that, but it doesn't work. It just doesn't work. What needs to happen is there needs to be a substantive change from within the people. Because as soon as you destroy one nation, because the sickness is still there, they will produce another nation of oppressors. You see, as soon as we imprison one group of people, we will produce another group of people who will do the same. What the Prophet did was he actually addressed the real problem from within. He said to the people, these crimes of yours and waywardness are symptoms of inner lack and deficiency and alienation from your truth and from your God. If you can find your own beautiful truth from within, these symptoms will go. When you know your own state of nobility, how beautiful you are, how pleasurable it is to find your own self and be in a dignified state and feel the proximity of Allah, you will not be told, there would be no need to tell you, don't be greedy, don't cheat, don't steal, don't lie, don't kill. There will be no need to tell you, share with others, give them out of your wealth. You will do that spontaneously. There will be no need to tell you, remember your God, because your God is somebody without whom you can't live anyway. This is where we are failing. We need to revert to the prophetic example of reminding people of their higher purpose. The higher purpose is not paradise. The higher purpose is you yourself. If you do not achieve yourself, what have you achieved? And if you achieve yourself, what have you lost? This body is quickly running towards the earth. And we can see that. What is inside there needs to grow as the body begins its descent back to the earth. So now, there is no question of telling a noble person, do not lie, because a noble person will not lie. There is no question of asking a noble person to forgive. The noble person's nobility and dignity does not allow them otherwise. A noble person will not speak ill of anybody. A noble person will not waste their breaths talking ill of people, will not be sleepless at night in the worry of their business capital. They will say, oh Allah, when I have you to look after me, do I need to worry about my morning? If you bring the morning to me and I open my eyes and breathe again, then surely you will supply my sustenance to me. And if you wish to keep my eyes shut, then there is no question of me worrying about my tomorrow. Prophet reminded people of their nobility from within. Now look at the way the Prophet instructed. He said, a believer may do anything, but a believer will not lie. A believer can do anything, but a believer cannot break his promise. Look at these things, because the nobility in there would not allow them. This is below my dignity. It's no longer a question that God is watching me and therefore I should not sin. The question is, oh Allah, even if you decide to turn your sight away and not see me, I will not be able to do this because I'm your creature. That is the pedestal at which we can arrive if we talk about inner change. What the world is lacking right now are good spiritual leaders. You see, every religion has got their own spiritual leaders who are carving out their own followers and their own authority. God has disappeared. God has become confined to name, to postures, to Hajj, to masjid, to church, to synagogue, to mandir. There is no God left. Religious leaders have failed the human community. I know once in a while we get a good one, but by and large, with an 8 billion people community, the religious leaders are not there, even at the top rank or the bottom. They are just not there. The religions, if you look at the Quran, Judaism, Christianity, Islam, at least the Abrahamic faiths, the spiritual leaders were supposed to be leaders who brought people to God by bringing the best out through them, not people who are hell bent in increasing numbers and keeping the group identity going. That's not what the Quran is talking about. No, it's talking about Amr bil Ma'ruf, Nahy anil Munkar, the want of good for one and all. In the love of Allah to give wealth. The Quran does not say give wealth to the Muslims in the love of Allah. Allah give wealth to the poor and the needy in the love of Allah. Where does this Muslim giving to Muslim come from? This is what the spiritual leaders are doing, unfortunately. Now, when the spiritual leaders are so bankrupted spiritually, they are. How much life do I have to live now anyway? I can say whatever I want. They are bankrupted spiritually. Then what can you expect of community leaders and heads of states? Total state of bankruptcy. I mean, we commend them for the 4 years and 3 years and 2 years that they stand as presidents. We commend them for wasting their time and for giving us service. We commend them because it's a waste of time for them because they're doing us service. We commend them for the sincere intentions. But when at the root and at the very top there is no God left, what do you expect at the bottom end of the pyramid? There isn't God. This is our crisis. So you find the Israeli-Palestinian problem, despite the fact that both of them belong to Abraham. We have the Shia-Sunni problem. Yet we both belong to Rasulullah. Look at where we have gone wrong. How beautifully the Quran said, call the people of the book to unite with you in the devotion to one God. The Muslims, in the name of one God, one Quran, one Prophet, can't unite and pray together. These are crises. In any case, I wanted to say this. I don't know how much of a difference it will make, but it is good to share ideas nonetheless, with the hope that even if a small group of people like us, if we can shed our Shia, Sunni, Muslim identity and come into the identity of God centricity and evolve, then maybe that's a start at least. No one on the face of this earth within our humanity is to be condemned. They are all lights of God and they're good creatures. The only thing is, like this person standing before you, we are just a little bit lost. Perseverance and good admonition will bring us through, inshallah. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillah Rabbil Alameen wassalatu wassalamu ala ashrafil anbiya wal mursalin wa alihi at-tayyibin at-tahirin. Allahumma salli wa sallim ala Muhammadin al-Mustafa wa ala aliyin al-Murtada wa ala Fatimata al-Zahra wa ala al-Hasan al-Mujtaba wal Husayn al-Shahid bi Karbala wa ala Ali ibn al-Husayn wa Muhammad ibn Ali wa Ja'far ibn Muhammad wa Musa ibn Ja'far wa Ali ibn Musa wa Muhammad ibn Ali wa Ali ibn Muhammad wal Hasan ibn Ali wa Hujjatullah ibn al-Hasan al-Qa'im al-Mahdi al-Muntadhar. اللهم عجل فرجه وسهل مخرجه واجعلنا من أنصاره وأعوانه والمستشهدين بين يديه. I'm just going to offer a small salutation to Hazrat Abu Abdullah and then we finish. Assalamu alayka ya Abu Abdullah wa ala al-arwah allati hallat bifinaik. عليك مني سلام الله أبدا ما بقيت وبقي الليل والنهار ولا جعله الله آخر العهد مني لزيارتك. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين جميعا ورحمة الله وبركاته. Eid Mubarak.